श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम ओम अखंडानंद संबोधः बंधनात् यस्य जायते गोविंदं तमहं वंदे चिदानंदतनुं गुरुम्. So yesterday we were seeing that the bliss, the happiness which you are experiencing be of the nature of the object. That was made clear. It cannot be of the nature of object. It is experienced in the mind. If it is of the nature of object, it should be experienced in the object, not in the mind. Something which is the nature of one, attribute of one, cannot be seen as the attribute of something else. Like the cloth and pot, we saw that. Okay. Then the opponent, which is we idiots, he refines the logic. He says, no, it is experience in the mind. It is experience, right? For that we say it is experienced, but if you say it is because of the object, then that is not possible. Why? If it is because of the object, even in the absence of whatever situation, if the object exists, then the experience should be there. If you think the object is that which triggers the experience of happiness in the mind, when there is trigger, then there should be the triggered. When there is the object, then there should be happiness compulsorily. But that does not happen. We don't see that always. There is no concomitancy here like that. Therefore, he says, okay, object exists, happiness does not exist. I now remember. What do you remember? There is an obstacle here. Because when there is obstacle, even something which exists, which is seen, you don't get it. We know. Like if there is an obstacle which obstructs the view on the whatever is existing on the other side, that beautiful thing is not seen. There, similarly, here also there is an obstacle. I'll give you another example, like a fire. The inherent nature of fire is to produce heat and light. That is the nature of fire. When we say fire, we say it produces heat and light. But that very fire, when it is burning, you put this stone called Chandrakanta, a moonstone. If you place that stone, then the nature of fire is not heat and light. It is only heat. There is no light. There is only light. There is no heat. It suppresses the heat. After I said this example, and this was at the beginning of the lecture in Vrindavan of Bhagavad Gita, Panchadashi, whatever. So after that, end of the lecture, this fellow comes to me and asks, where will I get the Chandramanta? I spoke for 1 hour about Vedanta, about self. And at the end of the lecture, he asked me, where will I get Chandrakanta money? Anyway, so I am not going to get into that again. Next, there is another possibility called as mantra. There are mantras called as stambhana mantra, that which obstructs. You can zap somebody or something. You can zap its power. They use these while before going into a debate. Even there they used to use this. They'll do the stambhana mantra and go for a debate. What happens? This fellow who is opponent, who is a very smart person, he'll forget the important point which he has to raise. Or even if he remembers, he would not be able to speak out. Similarly, there are mantras. When you say that mantra, the power of fire, which is to produce heat, that will be stopped, that will be prevented. Mantra. Okay, forget it. Simplest and easiest that you can test and you can find out yourself is a aushadhi, medicine. Aloe vera is one such medicine. If you apply aloe vera and touch fire, the fire will not burn. Simple. Or the magicians, they use this technique. they burn a kerchief and then immediately put it off and show you a beautiful, fresh, nice kerchief as before. How is it possible? The kerchief was dipped in alcohol and they put the fire. The alcohol is burnt, not the cloth, and they will immediately put it off and show you the kerchief. So these kind of things we see. These are obstacles. Okay. So some obstacle obstructs the experience of happiness through the object. That is why he is not able to gain the object. If that is your logic, then he says, duradṛṣṭādikaṃ nātra pratibandhaḥ prakalpyatām vishayasya priyasya vastuno lābhe duradṛṣṭaṃ na sidhyati. duradṛṣṭādikaṃ nātra pratibandhaḥ prakalpyatām vishayasya vastunaḥ lābhe duradṛṣṭaṃ na sidhyati. Beautiful. Atra, here in this situation, duradṛṣṭādikaṃ. Adrishta means that which is not perceived, unseen. It can either be good or bad. So to remove the error, he says dur, wrong. So wrong, unseen result, which is papa. Because of papa, what happens? Papa, etc. So papa, etc., which is pratibandhaḥ, which is the obstacle, because of iti na prakalpyatām, because of which I am not able to. Don't imagine such thing. Na prakalpyatām, don't imagine such thing. There is no obstacle here, like sin, etc. Why not? I am not able to experience the happiness. So you should have to imagine some reason. Why not? Why is accepting the sin wrong? Simple reason. If there was sin really, he would have not gained the object. If there was sin, then how could have he gained the desired object? The desired object is gained because of the punya, not of the papa. So he says, priyasya vastuno lābhe duradṛṣṭaṃ na sidhyati. If you have gained already the object of the desired object, then you cannot establish the sin. You have already established, by gaining the object, you have already established that you have punya. We explained it in two different states. Priya, moda, pramoda, we explained it in two different states. One is three different kinds of happiness in two different states. One is seeing the object, like a food, a good sweet, seeing the object, then having the object, then enjoying the object. Three different states. Or if it is a painting kind of thing, thinking about the object, seeing the object, and owning it. So the priya, moda, pramoda can be in three different states in this, two different states in this way. But still, gaining it, enjoying it can happen only when you have punya, not when you have papa. Oh, my sin, I got this. What? This painting, this Picasso painting. Because of my sin, I got. Who will say that? Only if you are threatened for life, you may say that. But you will enjoy the painting even then. So he says, tasmād. Therefore, he is concluding, tasmād na mānaso dharmaḥ nirguṇatvānna cātmanaḥ. Tasmād na mānaso dharmaḥ nirguṇatvānna cātmanaḥ. Tasmād, therefore, na mānaso dharmaḥ. It is not, this happiness which you are talking is not the nature of the mind. First, we negated it is not the nature of a object. Now we negate it is not of the nature of a mind. Yes. Who is this? Yes. The logician. He is happy. Why? Because he accepts the self to be of the nature of a sukha, dukkha, etc. It has the quality of being happy, etc. It is the attribute of self. That is what the logician thinks. So to negate that, don't jump to conclusion. He says nirguṇatvānna, because it is attributeless. The self also cannot have the happiness. The happiness cannot be of the nature of the self also, an attribute of the self also. The happiness which you are talking about cannot be the attribute of self. Attribute, that is the difference between the inherent nature which we accept. Okay. Now, this is like we said, this is the difference. This is like we said, then self is bliss, you said. We already explained this to the example of the karate dojo. When you see in front of the karate dojo, there will be flying kick, there will be punching and all that. Beautiful, tough techniques. He will be using weapons and all that and showing you different styles. Once you go in, he will say, the first thing he will say, the master will say is, you should not use this fight outside. You want to learn the fight to beat people. And he will say, don't use the fight. Similarly, satyam jnanam anantam brahma. Oh, Brahman is happiness, bliss. I am very sorrow. So I am in great misery. Let me go and enjoy some bliss. Once you come inside, he will say, Brahman is not neither happiness nor sorrow. You cannot just say, there is no sorrow in self. You cannot just say there is no sorrow in self. It is not just no sorrow, it does not have happiness also. So he says, okay, now what we have established is this important point. It is not the attribute of the object. The happiness is not the attribute of the object. Object, vishaya, prameya. It is not the attribute of the mind. Pramana, the means. It is not the attribute of the self. Pramata, the seer. In the worldly sense, I'm saying. So, it is not the attribute of the object. It is not the attribute of the means, not the knower, experiencer. So, it is neither the attribute of this, neither not the attribute of that, neither the... Then I am experiencing happiness. How can you explain that? I do experience happiness. I am happy. How do you explain the happiness? Okay. That is a different question. We'll answer that question. He says, Kintu puṇyasya sāṃnidhyāti ishtasyapi ca vastunaḥ sattvapradhāne cittesmiṃ tu ātmaiva pratibimbati ānandalakṣaṇaḥ svacche payasīva sudhākaraḥ. Beautiful. Kintu puṇyasya sāṃnidhyādiṣṭasyāpi ca vastunaḥ sattvapradhāne cittesmiṃ tu ātma eva pratibimbati ānandalakṣaṇaḥ svacche payasīva sudhākaraḥ. Kintu, so it is not of the object, it is not of the mind, it is not of the self. Then, but. Kintu, but. Whose nature it is? Who is experiencing it? How do I experience the happiness? Puṇyasya ishtasya vastunascapi sāṃnidhyāt. Because of the proximity, sāṃnidhya means proximity. Because of the proximity of the desired object and the punya. Just the desired object will not help you to experience the happiness. Just the punya will not let you to experience the happiness. So you have to have the punya and the desired object. Because of the proximity of both of them, sattvapradhāne asmin citte, in this mind which is predominantly sattvic, that is important. In the mind which is predominantly sattvic, what happens is ānandalakṣaṇaḥ ātmaivatu pratibimbati. This self, whose inherent nature is bliss, that gets reflected. Where does it get reflected? It gets reflected in the mind. What kind of mind? In the pure mind with punya. That is what you call as experience of happiness. How? There are two different states, let us say. You love an object. You love desire an object. Okay. So you are given that object. The moment you gain the object, there is a satisfaction. There is a satisfaction. That is the key. You are not enjoying the object. Once you gain the object, there is a satisfaction. that satisfaction lulls the mind. That stops the mind. There is no thought function in the mind. At that point of time, during that satisfaction, when there is no thought function in the mind, this bliss of the self gets reflected in the mind. This bliss of the self gets reflected in the mind. This is not just during the experience of happiness, even in experience of pain. What? Yes, even during the experience of pain, someone is slapping you. 1, 2, 3, 4, and just wait 2 minutes. It's paining in my hands. I'll give you more slaps. Now it is paining for him, so he has stopped. But we feel satisfied because that 2 seconds or 2 minutes, whatever gap, we are not going to be slapped. So that absence of slap brings a satisfaction. And during that satisfaction is the key. That is why. During that satisfaction, the mind stops. The bliss of the self gets reflected there. Okay. So he says, Atmaiva. How is it possible? Svacche payasī sudhākaraḥ. Like in the pure water. Svacche payasī. In a pure water, sudhākaraḥ. Sudha means nectar. Karaha means that which produces the nectar. Moon. Moon is accepted to be the producer of nectar, right? Like we just now passed this full moon day. It was called a Sharat Purnima. Okay. Now, during the Sharat Purnima, they boil. I've already said before. They boil the milk in open for the rays of the moon to hit that water for energy. Forget about it. The Shastra says, though sun rays are important for the grains to grow, the plants to grow, for the nourishment, it needs moon's rays. The energy is gained through moon's rays, not through sun's rays. Okay, so he says like that here, svacche payasī, in that pure water, sudhākaraḥ, that moon, reflection of the moon is seen clearly. The same way, svacche manasī, in the pure mind. Pure mind means a mind which is satisfied, which has no thought function. In a satisfied mind, I told you there will be no thought function. When the mind is a pure, clean, without thought function, this gets reflected. The bliss of the self gets reflected there. Okay, now. But still, if it is bliss of the self, I should have to experience the same bliss always. Because the same coffee, it gave me happiness at one point of time, and at another point of time, it didn't give the same happiness. You only said that. What is the reason for that? If it is the bliss of the self, I experience the object, then I should have to experience the same bliss. Simple. So for that we say, svayam ābhāsa ānandaḥ citte yah pratibimbitaḥ puṇyotkarṣāpakarṣābhyāṃ bhavatyuccāvacaḥ svayam. Svayam ābhāsa ānandaḥ citte yah pratibimbitaḥ puṇyotkarṣāpakarṣābhyāṃ bhavatyuccāvacaḥ svayam. Ya citte pratibimbitaḥ svayam ābhāsa ānandaḥ. That, so ābhāsa ānanda, that reflected bliss which is of the self, which is seen in the mind, in the pure mind, that svayam puṇyotkarṣāpakarṣābhyāṃ, because of the greatness or smallness, because of the increase or decrease of the punya, svayam uccāvacaḥ bhavati, it becomes a superior or inferior. Because of the greatness or because of the inferiority or superiority of the punya, there is inferiority or superiority of the happiness also. The happiness which we experience through the object, through the mind, is based on the punya, the level of punya we have. Punya is necessary. But there is a more punya or less punya. That is only difference. Okay. That seems to be logical. Yes, I understand. True. It is not the object. Yes. Okay. It is not of the mind. Okay. It is not of the bliss self. Okay. It is experienced because of the mind is pure. Okay. Because of the punya, it gets reflected to greater extent or lesser extent. That is also true. Okay. Logically, everything is fine. Then what? I need to experience it. That's also true. Then what do you want? See, you said you have to establish things through three pramanas: shruti, yukti, anubhava. Anubhava, I experience. Yes, I know. Yukti, you gave beautifully. You explained everything logically. I understood that also. But where is the shruti? Where is the Vedic proof for this? So for that, he says, he brings in Taittiriya Upanishad. There is an Upanishad called Taittiriya Upanishad. In Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a section in the second chapter. There are 3 chapters of Taittiriya Upanishad. The second chapter, there is a sequence in the final place called ānandamīṃamsa. Ānandamīṃamsa. Ānanda, bliss, Mīmamsa, Ānanda, bliss or happiness, Mīmamsa, inquiry. A special inquiry. Sacred inquiry. A sacred inquiry into the happiness. There he starts with the bliss. What is the first bliss he takes? The supreme amount of bliss a person can enjoy here in this world. Who can enjoy the greatest amount of bliss here? A person who, we are not even talking about the realist because that is not the question. The bliss, happiness, who is the one who experienced the extreme happiness in the world? In the world, because we are not talking about the self, the one who has realized the self, because he does not belong to the world. So the one who belongs to the world and who experiences the greatest amount of happiness is an emperor. So from there he starts. From his experience, śrutyasya ca kāmah te eshatam dash ānandaḥ. So that experience which is gained in the world by the emperor is gained by a person who has discrimination and dispassion. Śrutyā, discrimination. Kāmah, dispassion. 100 times to that is gained by dash ānanda. Dash is the next level. So every level, it goes on to 13, 14 levels. Every level, this experience is gained 100 times more by this fellow, and this is equivalent to the experience of this fellow. Indrasyanandaḥ, karma devanam ānandaḥ, pitrudevanam ānandaḥ, ajana devanam ānandaḥ. Like that, it will go on and on and on and on. Prajapateranandaḥ, śrutyasya ca kāmah te shatam prajapateranandaḥ, te shatam brahmana ānandaḥ. Like that, it will go on. It will complete. So the 100 times of the previous is this ānanda. The 100 times of previous is this ānanda. The ultimate 100 times is prajapateranandaḥ, the creator. That is what is presented here. Beyond that, 100 times, then the Prajapati is Brahmana Ānanda. That Brahman is not the creator. Self. After that, there is no 100 times. That is the absolute. There is no 100 times other than that. There is no equivalent to that. That is the only experience. So he says, sārvabhaumādibrahmāntaṃ śrutyā pratibandhaḥ sakṣaishno sādishayah prakṣīne kārane layam yātu eṣa viṣayānandaḥ yastu puṇyika sādhanah sārvabhaumādibrahmāntaṃ śrutyā pratibandhaḥ sakṣaishno sādishayah prakṣīne kārane layam yāti eṣa viṣayānandaḥ yastu puṇyika sādhanah. Sārvabhaumādibrahmāntaṃ. that experience of bliss, which is explained in the Shruti, Taittiriya Upanishad, right from the Sārvabhaumā emperor till the Brahman. Śrutyā pratibandhaḥ, that is which is explained by the Shruti. Brahmaji, Brahman is Brahmaji, not the Brahman, absolute. Saha Shaishnuhu, that bliss, that happiness is Shaishnuhu. Shaishnu means Kshaya Yuktaha, that which is associated with decay, destruction. So that is not a ever bliss. It is going to be changing, it is going to be destroyed. Satishaya, there can be gradations. Yeah, emperor, one emperor, whoever gains that bliss is not the same bliss as another emperor's bliss. One deity, Godhead, which is experienced that bliss, that is not the same bliss as another Godhead's bliss. So there is always this satishaya, comparative state. Okay. Ya punyaika sadhana, and that which is gained only through the punya. Only through the punya you can gain all this experience of happiness. Yesha Vishayananda, and another important point regarding this Vishayananda is this Vishayananda, this happiness which you gain through the object. Karane prakshine layam yanti. Once there is no cause, once there is absence of object, the happiness of the object also disappears. The happiness of object is directly proportional to the existence of the object. Object, happiness, gradation. No object, not even gradation. There is no happiness, completely gone. So he says, okay, good. Then there is happiness in the object, right? So running behind it is not the point. Then there's no problem, right? When we teach something, people who have this crooked intellect, they will always think like that. There is happiness, then why should I stop running from happiness? I'll go for the objects, experience the happiness. So for that he says, Yetu vaishaika ānandaḥ bhunjate puṇyakārinah dukkham ca bhogakāle'pi tesham ante mahattaram. Yetu vaishaika ānandam bhunjate puṇyakārinah dukkham ca bhogakāle'pi tesham ante mahattaram. Mahattaram dukkham. Puṇyakārinah, those who have done great amount of punya. Yetu, whoever that is. Vaisheka ānandam bhunjate, those who experience the happiness through the objects. Vaisheka, vishaye bhava vaisheka, that which is gained through the vishaya object. That happiness who gain through the object, tesham, for them,